Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Spark to Spotlight. I'm your host, Carol Chen, and I'm thrilled to be joined by Maebh, the co-founder of GoPlugable, a pioneering platform in the EV charging industry. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Carol, for having me. I'm really looking forward to this.
First of all, I want to make sure I pronounce your name correctly. Is that Maebh?
Yes, Maeve. Perfect.
All right. I just learned that this is a very typical Irish name, which means a girl who brings joy to the room. And if that's correct, what a coincidence. My Chinese name actually means exactly the same.
Oh, wow. We're like twins.
Exactly. Okay, let's dive right in, Maeve. Can you tell us about the moment that sparked the idea for GoPlugable? And when did you actually realize this is an acute problem that needs to be tackled?
Of course, yeah. So me and my co-founder met on an accelerator program called Catalyst Co-Founders in Belfast. And at that point, we had a few different ideas of things that we might want to try. But he described his experience as an EV driver. He bought an EV 5 years prior, but found it very difficult to charge publicly. And his landlord did not let him install a home charger, so he had to be completely reliant on public infrastructure. And I remember being so interested in how that all worked. So I was like, what did you do? How did you get by? I mean, this is at a time where public infrastructure was quite far behind in Ireland. And he described using his neighbour's charger in order to charge his vehicle once or twice a week so he could commute to work. And I remember thinking, this is such a great idea. And he had already started some early developments towards commercializing from this idea to create an Airbnb type solution for peer-to-peer charger sharing.
That's a very inspiring story indeed. I get to know that you just graduated last year from your master's degree in mechanical engineering, right? And you practically started GoPlugable while you were still pursuing your master's. Why did you choose entrepreneurship right away?
Yeah, I'm not really sure if it was a choice or just something that happened. I mean, I went on co-founders program when I was in the final year of my master's, and I thought it was such an exciting idea that we had built, and I decided, I'd rather do it now or never. So despite it being very, very busy at that time, doing my final year project and exams, I was juggling sort of two lives between building the startup and my university studies. So I think it was a good decision, but it was quite challenging from the start.
Yeah, we know that entrepreneurship involves a great deal of risks you are taking, right? So did you give yourself like a timeline? You are like, I'm still young, I just graduated, I give myself maybe 5 years to give it a try. And if I fail, I still have, opportunity to go back to maybe corporate world, etc., etc.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I loved engineering and I loved the industrial experience I had, but I just wanted an opportunity to try something different while I was so fresh in my career. And I thought, regardless of the turnout, I would make some good connections within the EV industry, which is an area that always really interested me. But I think from a few months of building GoPlugable, I was really, really hooked, and now I don't want to do anything else.
Wonderful, wonderful. Starting a new venture is always challenging. What were some of the biggest challenges you faced in the very early stages of GoPlugable, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is time management, of course, in the early days. Another big hurdle is around funding. So when you have a good idea and you've validated it with potential customers, and you've put in a lot of time, research, and energy, then it's time to build the product itself. And of course, that takes a lot of funding. But again, I was so early in my career, I didn't have that much of my own money I could put towards a startup. So our strategy was to then bootstrap as long as we could, and go through competitions, grants, accelerator programs, and anything that would help us along our funding journey. So we raised just over £150,000 in our first year, which allowed us to also launch a pilot of our product within the first year as well.
That is a very smart move indeed, because lots of founders, they didn't realize they actually have those competitions and the public money grants as an option, right? They most often go for equity-driven kind of a funding option, but there are lots of alternative options out there. How big is GoPlugable team now?
So now we're still quite a lean team. It's myself, my co-founder, who's our CMO. We have a quality engineer who goes through our bugs and answers customer queries around things that aren't working, things that are, to try and build as polished of a platform as possible, because we're still kind of in this pilot mode. And we also have a marketing team member as well who helps update our socials and keep our branding very fresh and vibrant, and to make sure that our customers keep seeing us pop along their social media feeds.
Yeah, absolutely. Marketing is very important, even for the early stage startups. As a CEO of an early stage startup, you also mentioned that it was a challenge to prioritize your time, right? So how do you actually split your time between different functions of the company, like operations or fundraising, for example, and the user feature, for example? So how do you split your energy and time between those functions?
I think it's important that every week there's a different split. The life of a founder is so dynamic, and no day is the same. And even no week is the same in terms of your energy and focuses. We try to focus on our product for the majority of the time. So talking to customers, looking at the platform itself, because it is quite easy to get sucked in and distracted from other activities like fundraising. And we are also currently fundraising. So it can be hard to juggle and wear all the hats, I suppose. But I think as long as you make sure that the customer is key and their voice is the most important one in the entire startup and everything that you build and do, and everything after that should be second priority. I also do a lot of public engagement, speaking slots, and I think, yeah, my weeks are always very, very different, but I try to dedicate as most of my time to the product and speaking to our customers as possible.
Yeah, as a founder myself, I can definitely resonate on that. A day can just pass by so quickly. You are busy with so many small things, right? At the end of the day, oh, you look back and realize, oh, a day has passed so quickly. I didn't even do much things. So GoPlugable was launched early last year, right? And how the traction has been so far?
So the traction's been good. I mean, again, we're bootstrapped, so marketing-wise, we're quite limited budget for really spreading the word. So we've been focused on the island of Ireland so far. So we have over 750 users, around 70, approaching 80 home charging hosts across the island of Ireland. So we're really happy with that traction so far. And most of that time, again, has been dedicated to speaking to the users and getting their thoughts and opinions, to try and refine the platform as much as possible before we really go out and spread the word fully. We are actually planning to launch across the northwest of England this summer, so we're really looking forward to that, and making a lot more noise about the great things that we're doing at GoPlugable.
Congratulations on the market validation from your early adopting users. It's always inspiring to hear how the real people benefit from new technologies. And can you share some success stories from maybe your early users who benefited from the GoPlugable network?
Sure. So my co-founder actually uses our platform quite a lot. He's always commuting between Drogheda in Ireland and then Belfast in Northern Ireland, because we work across the border. So he's always using our platform, which is really great because it also helps him with parking. And then from the customer side, some of our hosts are really excited because it allows them an opportunity to meet another budding EV driver. The EV market in Ireland has definitely increased and accelerated, but I think EV drivers who were early adopters really enjoy meeting other EV drivers. So it's a great opportunity for them to possibly have an interaction, find out more about their journey, speak about their vehicles. And of course, not every host is inclined to really go and make a social interaction. It's really up to you as a host what you decide to do and how you decide to host on the platform. But yeah, they really enjoy that aspect. And of course, from the charging side, people really enjoy being able to schedule in advance and know exactly where and when they're going to charge their vehicle, especially those that, again, live in apartments, rented accommodation, or don't have a driveway of their own. They find it extremely useful, especially in urban areas.
I know that every startup, when they go to pitch, they usually have a tagline to describe their solution, right? It's like, for example, DoorDash for grocery, or Uber for bicycle, for example. Do you have a similar tagline for GoPlugable when you go, spread the story about your startup?
So for a long time, we used the Airbnb of private EV chargers, which is a great comparison, especially in regards to the domestic model that we're building. But no, I think we need to brainstorm something else. We are also building a B2B platform where private business owners like hotels, urban gyms, coffee shops, and even office spaces can rent out their private charging. It's usually reserved for customers, employees, but using our platform, they'll be able to rent it out to the wider community under a scheduled basis and then optimize the revenue that they receive on the infrastructure that already exists. So right now we are currently calling ourselves the champions of slow charging. I think in the EV world, there's a lot of hype around fast charging, how quickly can you charge your car and get back on the road publicly. But again, the same problems exist where you're not really sure when you'll get access to one, if it's poorly maintained, or whether there'll be a queue in front of you. And I think slow charging is definitely a very underrated method of charging your EV. It's certainly more reliable, especially if it's your own home charger. And it's also the most cost effective as well. So it brings you the ultimate convenience, but then cost benefits as well in your EV charging journey.
Yeah, I like the one, Airbnb for EV charger. Of course, it's always hard to find a term that encompasses all the aspects, right? Including your to-be kind of aspect. Yeah, brainstorming to find more interesting ideas to describe it. Cool. Speaking of the competitive landscape, to talk about other EV charger solution out there. So we know that to ensure a platform is user-friendly is also super crucial for success, for standing out in this competitive market. How do we ensure that GoPlugable remains user-friendly and effective, both the host and users?
This is a big priority for us, and especially in the early days of building our product, we did many user testing sessions where essentially different potential users would come onto Zoom like this, and we would share different features and they would give their thoughts on how user-friendly it is. I think for the EV industry, something that's very much overlooked is that in the early days of adoption, usually people who bought an EV are usually more technologically advanced. They're usually higher income, so they understand apps and software a lot more than certain other demographics. But now that we're entering into this arena of mainstream adoption across Europe, I think it's really important that we build user-friendly products for a demographic of all types. So different technical literacies, different age groups, etc. Because many people who are in the sort of 50s to 60s age demographic are now switching to EV. And, they didn't grow up with technology the same way that my generation has. So it's really important that we build something that you can easily navigate. And it takes a lot of this sort of uncertainty around knowing where to charge. So we're trying to make it as simple as possible.
Did you follow this kind of YC model of MVP, launch MVP first, then hear the feedback, then iterate? What are the minimum features you already launched, and what are the features still in your pipeline that's coming forward?
Yeah, so we did follow that same path of an MVP first, get feedback, and then go back to the drawing board. We actually do it every day. It's something that I think never ends, which is a great thing. I think we should always be innovating, and it's something that I love about early stage tech startups. But yeah, I think we were actually very focused on UX as well, and even just branding and marketing and the look of the app itself. I think especially in the direct to consumers sector, it is important for things to look good as well as be able to be used well. So that was definitely, we put a lot of focus on that very early as well. And the initial features were, you know, finding a host to run a map in your area and being able to favorite a host, setting up the booking, introducing the wallet for payment, and then the time-based system for calculating the cost at the end. So although it was an MVP, I would say it was quite high level from the beginning, and a lot actually goes into our platform that you wouldn't even realize, which I think is a great thing, because the app looks very simple and is simple to use, but actually there's quite a lot that goes into the technology behind it. And we're really excited to begin launching the first pilots of our B2B product at the end of this year, and also automate the charging, pricing, and start and stop at the session according to scheduled time by integrating it with the home charger or the private commercial charger as well. All chargers within the UK are under OCPP, OCPI, which means we can very easily integrate across them, of course, with a few partnerships along the way as well.
When you launched, what was your go-to-market strategy? Did you use advertising from the very beginning, or rely on word of mouth, or went to some industry association event, conference, for example?
So with advertising, I think we tried to see how long we could do without it. Advertising in this world right now is a really tricky game to get right from the start, and it can be quite difficult, and you can burn through a lot of cash very quickly if you're not doing it in a strategic manner. So we decided to very organically find who our customers were. We joined EV associations. So Northern Ireland has an EV association, and Ireland also has one. So we joined those and spoke to their members, and they're a very, very enthusiastic group of early EV adopters, and many of them have home chargers as well. So we used a lot of their communities to be able to bring up our consumer base. We offered them special referral codes and discounts so that they could use the platform first. We attend a lot of events as well. We often say that any opportunity to pitch in any room where we'll try and find someone that will listen to us, we'll go. And then PR and media is also a big one as well. So newspapers, podcasts, radio, for example, because our demographic of EV drivers are often consuming this type of media. We try and see how far we can go with getting our name out there through those matters as well. And it's proved quite effective, really, because the EV topic in the UK and Ireland can be sometimes quite controversial. A lot of doubters out there on whether they can really be viable in a mass market. And there's often a debate around EV charging, their sustainability. So we have positioned ourselves quite well in the media to give a very fresh view of EVs, one that's very pragmatic and practical, and show that it can be a viable option for people as long as the right measures and innovations like ours are in place.
Well, those are very useful tips for the founder community who tune in to listen to our episodes. Great, they learned a great deal, I'm sure. And as a co-founder and CEO of the company, having a clear vision is also essential for leading your team effectively, right? Because you have a long roadmap in front of them in the future. Could you share your vision for GoPlugable? Particularly, how do you see it shaping the future of EV charging infrastructure? Let's start maybe with your plans for the UK and then expand to your regional or global ambitions.
Sure, yeah. So we're doing a GB-wide, UK-wide launch starting from this summer. And really how we scale our product is quite regional. So it's region by region as opposed to country by country. I think because a two-sided marketplace is often quite tricky to get right. And we want to create this sort of launch marketing machine that we can easily replicate and make better as we scale. So our vision is to address places that are already having issues with EV charging on a public sphere. So we chose in the northwest of England because it has the second poorest public charging infrastructure in the UK, apart from Northern Ireland. So that's why we chose it as our first sort of launch hub in England. And we also want to try and partner with as many different players within the EV market as well. So anything from utility companies to public charging operators, to home charger manufacturers, to vehicle dealerships as well. So we can spread the word and help more people transition to EVs in a way that's more accessible and convenient for them to charge.
Yeah, and I really like this community aspect of your vision as well, right? It's not only about from business to business, but you also give option to everyday common individual to have extra opportunity to earn an income from utilizing their spare kind of infrastructure facility at home. So I really like the community aspect of it.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I mean, I think overall we want to create a platform that's essentially a one-stop shop for all your charging needs as well. So I mean, most EV drivers have about 4 or 5 apps on their phone, all to help them with their charging journey. And we want people to really fall in love with the EV driving experience and just to make it as easy as possible. So we think by integrating the community into this ecosystem, we can build something that really makes sense and benefits either side of the marketplace between, the supply and demand side.
Yeah, as the saying goes, it's better to have 100 users who fall in love with your solution than thousands of them who just like your solution, right?
Sure, yeah. Hopefully we have thousands soon though.
Awesome. Okay, so on a personal note, I'm curious, what drives your passion towards sustainability and green technology? Are there any specific experiences or influences in your life that have shaped your commitment to these courses?
Sure, yeah. I think part of the reason why I became a mechanical engineer is because a lot of a mechanical engineer's role is to a few decades ago, it was about building things that were, inexpensive, optimized, could be the best product it could be. But then this new wave of engineering also integrates a sustainability element as well. And I always find that really, really interesting. And I think I became an engineer because I wanted to have some influence on the world in terms of sustainability. It was always something that was very important to me. And actually, during my industrial experience, I lived in Denmark as well, for a short period of time. And, Denmark are a global leader in terms of sustainability and community and that type of element as well, and integrating them together. So that was a lot of inspiration too. I mean, the Scandinavian area was very far ahead in EV infrastructure, renewables. The town where I lived in is set to be one of the first towns that will be carbon neutral in Europe as well, which is really impressive. And I think that definitely influenced me and my ambitions for going into green technology as well. So I think I always kind of use these different pockets of inspiration. And then also, I think my generation as well, as time goes on, we're seeing the effects of climate change more and more. And, a few years ago, you would have noticed one or two things that were on a 10-year period. But now, every year we can see from the weather and everything going on in business as well, and how that's affecting the world, and also in terms of our own fuel security, the hyper-reliance on fossil fuels and what that does, especially in global politics as well. So I think it's really important for us to have more options and go for a sustainable choice, not because of the betterment of everyone on planet Earth, but also for your country's own security, and where you find your resources and how you're able to basically allow your people to make that sustainable choice as well.
Wonderful. Since you have applied for one of our programs related to expansion into China, right? Could you also share with us a bit of your thoughts on kind of how to connect GoPlugable with the Chinese market, how you envision the collaboration between GoPlugable and the stakeholders in the Chinese market?
So we applied for the program because, of course, everyone knows that China is a global leader in not just the manufacture of the EV charging hardware, but also in terms of EV adoption as a whole. I think it has the most EVs per capita in the world, from what I remember. And we thought it would be really, really good to apply for the program and hear insights into what we're building. The domestic model works very well in a European type context, but we'd love to learn more about how EV adoption has functioned in China and whether GoPlugable has a real opportunity to break through that market as well, because there are so many EVs. And of course, with any country that has mass EV adoption, it can take a while to be able to provide public infrastructure that can keep up with the huge influx. And it's been really, really interesting researching more about the Chinese EV adoption before pitching for the event. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to feedback and hearing how GoPlugable can really fit as part of that EV ecosystem.
Yeah, I really look forward to seeing GoPlugable advance further into this program. The startup environment is notoriously demanding. At your age, just right out of college, how do you balance your professional responsibility with your personal life? I mean, you're at a point in life where, you can go out to party, you can go out to have abundance of social life. So at this stage, how do you balance your work and your life?
I think it's really difficult sometimes, and not in a negative way. It's difficult because I really, really enjoy the startup world, and a lot of my now friends are founders, and I attend a lot of networking events, and they are my new social events now. So it's become very intertwined, which I think is a great thing. I mean, even, I'm going actually on holiday this Friday, and I was really excited to go traveling for the first time in quite a while and not travel for work specifically. And then I, get a text and I'm like, hey, would you do this event while you're there because you're going to be there anyway? And I'm like, sure. And then I realized, this is what I love to do. And sometimes the social element certainly doesn't feel like work, even though everything else in the startup world can be quite hard work. But I think meeting other founders and networking and going to industry focused events and learning more about sustainability every day is something that I really, really enjoy. So yeah, I think a lot of my personal life and the company life as well has become very intertwined, but it's been a really nice experience for me personally.
Yeah, as long as you love what you do, I mean, the line between work and fun is kind of blurred, right? You are
Yeah.
basically having fun even you are focusing on your work. And finally, what advice would you give to aspiring entrepreneurs who actually want to make an impact in the sustainability space?
I think in the world of sustainability, there's often a lot of noise. A lot of companies are using sustainability as a way to get their name out there, which I think is great. I mean, out of European startups, more VC funds are spent in sustainability projects than any other vertical, which is really, really exciting. I think for sustainability, because it has become very, very popular and a great angle for other founders to really pursue. I think it's important to focus on your differentiator, where you fit inside the market, especially if it's quite a busy market like ours is. And I think it's important to always know where your motivations are and to ensure that everything that you do has that sustainable impact. And a sustainable impact that can be accessible to everyone, especially if you're going down the consumer route as well. So I think, as long as you keep your sustainable motivations as your guiding star, and ensure that you're creating real both economic, social, and environmental impact, and weave all of those elements into your business development, you'll make a good success of it. But we're still learning every day as well.
Yeah, speaking of investors, right? So I know that, of course, sustainability is a great impact, but when investors look at your pitch decks, of course, they will mostly focus on not only social impact, but the economic impact, right? They want to see actually you can bring them return. Speaking of this fundraising and investor aspect, so I have a bonus question. What are your biggest challenges when pitching to investors about GoPlugable solution when you are fundraising?
I think for us, a lot of I mean, right now in the climate of the UK and Irish investment and funds that have been raised, you know, in the past 2 years, I would say it's been quite slow. It's quite well known at this point that, you know, investment is down definitely in Ireland as well, and especially Northern Ireland. Although there are some great groups out there that are trying to change this and profile more Northern Irish startup founders in a more global stage and across the UK as well. So I think just generally a lot of startups are finding it hard to fundraise right now. And I think for us as well, we are currently a B2C platform, which not every investor has an appetite for. I mean, if we were purely SaaS or B2B, at least our pipeline of customers could be more laser focused and less, you know, spread out and differentiated like it is currently. And we are building a B2B platform, but we need the funds to do that. So it often becomes like a chicken and egg scenario, we call it, where we need funds to build it, but investors want us to build the B2B angle. So we just have to really find an investor that sees eye to eye with our vision. And I think, you know, if you have a platform that both encompasses B2C and B2B, I think B2C is a great starting point. You know, it's easier to get a B2C customer than a business on board. You can get early traction and insights on how your platform operates and optimize that before you go and sell to a business. So that's our strategy anyway, but it is quite hard right now to fundraise. So we are currently talking with angel investors, and specifically people who maybe have had a longer career within sustainability, people who are passionate about EVs themselves, and can really put their expertise into how we scale GoPlugable across Europe and hopefully the wider world.
Yeah, it's true. Finding an investor who align with your vision is very important in this more difficult environment of fundraising, especially find the right investor. I mean, the one who are as passionate as you are towards your vision. That's also super important. That's a very useful tip for our founder community who are currently fundraising. Thank you so much for sharing your stories and experience with us today, Maebh. It's been incredibly enlightening. I'm sure our listeners are just as inspired as I am. We will be watching GoPlugable's journey closely and cheer you on every step of the way.
Thank you so much, Carol, for having me. I really enjoyed chatting with you and sharing a bit about our story.
And thank you to everyone who tuned in. Don't forget to subscribe for more discussions with the leading minds in technology and sustainability. Until next time, keep innovating for a greener tomorrow.